Want to bring in John Licata, Chief Commodity Strategist for Blue Phoenix. John is also the editor of the Commodity Chronicles and was saying just over a month ago that Tony Hayward would be replaced. John Licata, good to have you with us on Bloomberg.
Great to be back.
All right, so Bob Dudley coming in, replacing Tony Hayward. That'll happen in October. Does this necessarily change the way investors ought to look at BP?
I don't think so. I think many people had assumed because of Dudley being such an adamant spokesperson for BP when they, down in the Gulf. He's from Mississippi. He knows the people down there. I think he has a good grasp of what's going on and what's needed to help in the recovery efforts. Many people have looked at Dudley coming in and saying, how does American run one of the largest British firms in the world? Interesting enough, there are many American businessmen who do operate in Britain successfully. Malcolm Glazer is obviously one of them.
Manchester United.
He runs Manchester United, that's correct. But, I think this was a smart move. And I think that, this is actually going to be a catalyst for some potential more asset sales, ones that maybe we didn't think of prior. Primarily, they're Russian assets.
All right, well, you talk about this idea of asset sales. We've seen, for example, ConocoPhillips finally divesting its stake in Lukoil, the Russian asset. What do you think happens at BP? They've got that BP TNK strategy. Is that going to be sold?
I think it has a very good chance of being sold. And, quite frankly, I think that BP has taken the playbook out of ConocoPhillips. I mean, a couple of months back, if you remember on this program, we suggested that it could possibly be BP selling $10 billion worth of assets. They announced that they did sell $10 billion worth of assets right to the penny. And I think that now, with ConocoPhillips being very adamant about shedding the Lukoil assets, I think that's the fact that Dudley is not very well liked in Russia. In fact, he was actually ushered out of the country.
That's right. They put him on a plane. They said leave.
Yeah, they told him to leave, and I think that that's left a sour taste in his mouth that he doesn't forget, and maybe one of the reasons why Hayward was actually shipped to Siberia. So I do think that we can see that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to hear more about that in the upcoming months.
All right, what about other investments in the energy sector right now? I know that you were on the conference calls for Hess today, as well as for ConocoPhillips. Tell me about Hess right now, HES.
Well, Hess is a company that I like for some time. I've been quite enthusiastic about them trying to diversify. I mean, quite frankly, they're one of the E&P companies that has done very well with acquiring assets in the Bakken. And their announcement last night about them acquiring American Oil and Gas, and I believe it's 85,000 net acres in the Bakken area. I think that just shows that management is trying to...
Who knew? North Dakota, the natural gas patch of the United States.
If the cows were grazing, I think maybe we should follow the cows, but I think it's a great area. And, the Bakken is a very economic area as well, especially if natural gas prices start to move higher, and I think they will, and we're starting to see that today. But I liked Hess's diversification. I think they were looked a little bit sour from the investment community today, just for the fact that we've heard such robust news coming out from many of the oil companies related to the refining aspect of their business.
Well, the refining, they had a shutdown, didn't they?
Well, they had a shutdown in New Jersey. It's exactly right, and it lasted 41 days. And I think that if they didn't have that problem, I think that was very well possible that they would have had much more of a strong quarter. And I think this is a name from a diversification perspective. It's kind of like moving away from that refinery business. Quite frankly, I'm not sure why they want to do it so quickly, especially now the refining margins are starting to come back.
Because refining margins have been terrible. It's been that tension between the upstream and the downstream businesses.
I think if they were going to do it, if they were going to maybe relinquish some of those assets, they would have done so already. So maybe now I just think maybe the time of it is not as favorable for me as an analyst as I would have liked to seen. But all in all, I think Hess is a fantastic company, and I think that they're starting to boost their presence away from the Northeast, and I think that is one of the reasons why we're starting to see such enthusiasm start to come back in that name. It was a good conference call.
So you think that investors maybe are overlooking some of the good points for Hess?
Yeah, quite frankly, on the call, management talked about how the Gulf of Mexico, they have their Pony project is down there. It's a very large project, and everyone's to wait and see how the moratorium is going to play itself out. And I think that doesn't, Hess is one of those people that could possibly move assets, and they said on their call that they could possibly look to send assets to Africa.
All right, I want to thank you very much, John Licata, coming to us from Blue Phoenix and also the editor of the Commodity Chronicles.